How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. A little bit more of a positive episode today, the first one in quite a while. The Yankees had a perfect game, courtesy of Domingo Germán yesterday. I mean, if you guys stayed up for that game, my heart was beating out of my chest. There were a couple moments there that I thought it might get ruined, but wow. That was one of the most incredible performances I've seen against the Oakland Athletics, a really bad team, but nonetheless, a perfect game is extremely hard to achieve. So, shout out to Germán for doing that. Obviously he's had some checkered history with some things in the past, and maybe we would have preferred it to be Nestor Cortez or one of our fan favorites, but nonetheless, you have to applaud the pitching performance itself. It definitely was immaculate. But I'll say this, the bats, 11 runs, 11 hits. The Yankees offense came to play. And that's something that we haven't seen in the past couple of weeks. Without Aaron Judge, the Yankees have scored 7 or more runs on just 2 occasions since May 30th. That's a month they've only scored that many runs. And, this is an opportunity for the Yankees to gain some confidence, put some runs on the board, finish this series strong, and get ready to take on at the St. Louis Cardinals, who are another struggling team. But Ryan, what are your thoughts on this perfect game? Your thoughts on some of the bats hitting up? We're going to talk about Anthony Volpe again. We're going to talk about Stanton's performance and some of these hitters that kind of showcase some of that quality we know they have, but it's been a little bit inconsistent over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, the Yankees needed a game like this. I mean, I understand, that one game is one game. The Yankees can still lose today and lose a series, and then as a whole, this series would be a failure. But they needed a game like this. Number one, they're facing JP Sears. Not that beating JP Sears is like a monumental achievement, but I think that the discourse after the game would have been really bad had JP Sears shut down the Yankees and we had gone on to lose that game and then lose the series and be set up for a situation where today you could get swept by the Oakland Athletics, right? That would be all-time bad, right? The Yankees would fall out of a playoff spot, if I'm not mistaken, just based on their win-loss record. They've been able to somehow hold on to that playoff spot. And, whether it's something that, it's something that I believe is a miracle. They have the best ERA in baseball as a team. I think that's a miracle. And as you mentioned, Anthony Volpe, that's continued to be something that's gone well for the Yankees. Volpe is starting to hit. I understand his numbers on the season still aren't excellent, but I think he's looking a lot better at the plate. Even again, he absolutely smashed a ground ball the other way that the second base makes a great play on, gets a great jump on, and turns it into an out. But, he hits a double, gets a single on a push bunt, using his legs to get to third base on a steal, stole his 16th bag of the year. I want to see the Yankees let Volpe run a little bit. I know he got caught in the first game of the series, I understand, but that's part of the risk when you're running the bases. And I'll take 16 stolen bases for every, I'll take 16 stolen bases and 1 caught stealing every single time. I don't care. But you didn't have Jake Bauers play yesterday. You didn't have Billy McKinney play yesterday. So, really it was the Yankees trying to get their guys who were struggling all year to perform, and that's exactly what they did. Germán, he's been horrible the 2 starts before this. It was to the point where we're going to start sitting here and asking, hey, should the Yankees, what are the Yankees are going to have to DFA him or something? And that perfect game, that brings him back to the rotation fold. And I think end of the day, if you're looking at the Yankees right now, if they pull off a win today against the Oakland Athletics, I understand, and then you can have a strong series against St. Louis, overall, you've had a pretty good run. You'll say that you've won, 4 series in a row. That's a really good stretch. This team just needs to stay afloat, and this team just needs to stay above water for now. And I think Anthony Volpe being the catalyst of that is huge. We're a month away really from the deadline. Aaron Judge, started playing catch. They're saying they're going to, it's still a process, but to see him play catch is great. You're going to get Rodon at some point if that final rehab start goes well. At some point, I think in early July, I think they said July 7th. You got Ian Hamilton back. Now the Yankees are starting to look a little more like a baseball team. I think that Giancarlo Stanton home run was massive. I think everyone just was like, yep, he needed that. And then he hits a single as well. So I guess the question that remains to be asked here is, is John, I think the big guy here is Giancarlo Stanton, literally and figuratively. If he hits, I think the Yankees could slump as a lineup, but if he's hitting, they'll still score runs. And I think they'll score just enough to win games. So I kind of want to spin this question back at you. Do you think Giancarlo Stanton, do you think that was the game for him to come back? Or do you think, what do you think is the next step for him after this?
Look, if you look at Giancarlo Stanton's stats, the slugging metrics are phenomenal, right? He hasn't taken a step back regarding his slugging metrics. The guy's still hitting 53.7% hard hit rate, 15.9% barrel rate, 94 average exit velocity. The real difference here is the 8.6 degrees of launch angle. Last year was 10.8 degrees. He's not hitting with that type of upward angle, at least not consistently. And I think that's kind of hurt his home run numbers to a degree, but it's the whiff rates, it's the swing decisions. The past couple of weeks have been poor, and Stanton's been vocal about his rhythm when he's playing defense and how it translates into offensive production. Stanton, when he's just DHing, he sometimes looks a little bit uncomfortable, maybe out of flow, but he played defense yesterday, looked good, and he hit well. 2 hits, a homer, 3 RBIs. He's starting to kind of heat up a little bit. He showed signs of life, and that's what we need. We need Stanton to pick it up. Stanton has, and like you mentioned, Stanton has the capacity to help supplement Aaron Judge's loss to a pretty large degree. Stanton in his prime, Stanton when he's on, is a really good freaking baseball player. And, he's hitting cleanup for a reason. They've been moving around a little bit. It's 2, 4, 3, more so just 2 and 4, kind of bouncing between those two. But, when I look at Stanton, I say to myself, this is a player that is not too old to produce at a high level. You know what I mean? He just happens to get hurt right when he gets hot. And that's kind of the issue with Stanton, is that when he's cold, he's healthy. When he's hot, he gets hurt. And I don't know if it's something about overextending himself or if he's feeling confident. He's just kind of forgets about things, or maybe when he's struggling, he's just not getting on base as much. So there's not as much running going on. There's so many different variables you could throw into the mix here, but Stanton has that quality. The question is, you watched Josh Donaldson yesterday, right? He had 2 RBIs. He had a fly out, and he had that double to left field late in the game when the A's were basically already put to bed. Those first 3 strikeouts were bad. He was getting booed relentlessly by the away fans in Yankee Stadium. There's 13,000 people there. Half of them are Yankee fans. So, the question is, if Donaldson continues to struggle, how long does his leash last? How long do we have to sit and kind of watch these poor at-bats go by? Is this a situation where you think that he's deserving of more opportunity, a couple more weeks to prove his worth, to prove he can be consistent? Or do you think his leash should be shorter than that? Do you think? I think they're going to wait until after the All-Star break for sure to make any decisions. I think that week there will be a big kind of reset for the Yankees. It's going to give a lot of the guys that are struggling now, another opportunity to kind of come back and perform well. So how long after the All-Star break, if Donaldson continues to struggle, do you have to make a decision on maybe supplementing him with another player, or at least utilizing him more as a rotational piece rather than an everyday starter?
Yeah, no, Josh Donaldson's in a really tough spot right now, man. There were signs of life when he was really hitting the ball hard, but to hit the ball hard, you have to hit the ball, right? And when you're whiffing a lot, when you're striking out a ton, when you're not making great swing decisions, you're not going to be able to hit the ball hard. I think that Josh Donaldson is someone that, as you mentioned, the Yankees are going to give run to. They're going to allow him to play up until the All-Star break at the very least. Is he still hitting the ball hard? Absolutely. That's undoubtedly true. He does hit the ball hard, and I think that that's important. But again, it comes down to the ability to actually hit the ball. You have to make contact, right? You have to. There's a certain threshold in which whiffs, are a little too high. Strikeouts are too high for you to sustain good performance, even when you're hitting the ball hard. And another aspect of this is that if you're a strikeout hitter, you're subject to a lot of variance, especially when you're not walking a ton. If you're walking a lot, you can go out there and, even if you don't have your swing, you can still work walks, still get on base. Your ceiling is higher, and your floor is higher as well, because you can work a high OBP, or at least a league average OBP, even when you're not slugging very well or hitting for a great average. On the other hand, Josh Donaldson, when he strikes out so much, creates an inability to do that. You can't play with the BABIP gods if you swing and miss at a pitch down the middle, right? There is no, quib shot to right field. There is no, even Volpe with that push bunt, right? I'm not saying that Josh Donaldson should sacrifice power for contact, but he has to be able to have both of them come together, or else he's not going to really stick around much longer. I think the Yankees are going to have options available at the deadline. Again, I'm very big on Heimer Candelario. I think that is the exact type of player that this team needs. But how willing are the Yankees going to be to buy at the deadline? This is not a very good deadline. The Yankees have a pretty decent farm. They have a lot of their guys getting close to the major leagues. Is this a time where you really start trading them for a team that you're not really sure about just yet? I can understand if they don't go all out, but, I still think they need to at least address or reevaluate the third base position at some point. I know that people aren't happy about Aaron Boone's comments regarding he's going to get a lot of playing time, but I think Boone's actions will always speak louder than his words. If Boone stops playing Donaldson, that'll be because he wants to stop playing Donaldson, or because they don't believe in him very much, right? You know how they treated the situation with Aaron Hicks when Aaron Hicks got to a point where they felt like they couldn't deal with him anymore. They DFA'd him. So I don't think this organization lacks the ability to admit that they're wrong. I think that this organization is just, they're very stuck on their process of, you want to see what this guy's got. I'm not opposed to that. I think that's the right way to handle it, even if it's not the way I personally, because of how I feel about Josh Donaldson and what I watched last year, even though that's not what I personally feel the Yankees should be doing. But, I think you and I can agree that giving him run isn't the problem. The problem will be if, we're in mid-July and you feel like he hasn't gotten better, number one, and number two, you don't feel like the Yankees are necessarily motivated to move him off of third base or move him off the roster.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see what happens, obviously. And for what it's worth, I hope to God he picks it up. Every single player on this Yankees team, I want them to succeed. The reason we're so critical is because of inconsistent issues, or, we just kind of saw it coming. You know what I mean? Like, we just, the decisions that Cashman makes sometimes are a little bit, I don't want to say like lacking logic, but they certainly pose questions that we want answers to. And, sometimes, and ultimately, look, baseball is a confidence game, right? These guys have talent. There's no way to objectify against that. Like, these guys have talent, and they've proven it in the past in one way or another. The thing is, you have to just kind of wait for those cold streaks to go quiet. You really have to just wait for these guys to pick it up from time to time. But a couple guys are starting to show life. Harrison Bader has 4 hits in his last 3 games. Volpe has 6 hits in his last 3 games. Stanton had 2 hits last night. Like, we need these guys to pick it up, step it up. And Oakland Athletics, it sucks to say, but they're a get-right team, and the Yankees can utilize them as leverage to propel them to future success. But guys, I'd love to hear perspectives below, obviously on the perfect game, but also kind of the offensive pieces that are starting to heat up a little bit, show signs of life. We need it desperately, as you know. But as always, my friends, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.